Number 2 class of cholesterol lowering drugs, they are called the fibrates. Some of you are using fenofibrate. And you're thinking, oh, maybe because Daktari talked about statins, I can use this one. This one is a safer one. No stopping the liver from making cholesterol. Now, fenofibrate comes in, you see, you produce cholesterol to come into the blood vessel to actually cover the inflammation that is happening in the blood vessels so that we start a healing process, right? Just the same way you go to hospital and you're bandaged when you have a wound. They bandage that wound. So that cholesterol is actually acting like that bandage to start the healing process. And guess what happens? So now fenofibrates or the fibrates, they come in and sweep off all these bandages from the bloodstream. It's like building a wall and then somebody comes and kicks the wall. Yeah? Hey, that way. And guess what? The side effects are just the same way as the statins, but more inflammation now. Here we also have the gallstones, because now you're lowering cholesterol and now you end up having the gallstones in the gallbladder, and now you have to chop off a gallbladder. When you chop off a gallbladder, you are unable to produce bile or to store bile that is supposed to be used to digest and sequester fats in the small intestine so that you can absorb fats and fat-soluble vitamins. Now also this one causes hepatitis and inflamed liver. And then muscle wasting is also part of that. So those are side effects. So are you willing to take the journey of just getting all these problems? No wonder people are treated for diseases and then they still die from the same diseases. So your doctor actually is very clever. When he's writing that statin, he's telling you, this one is going to help you to recover from a stroke or prevent yourself from getting a stroke, yeah? And then you take that drug and one day you get a stroke. And the only thing they do is either they change the drug or they increase the dose. And then of course you'll die of a stroke or a heart attack. And they will say, no, we managed him through guidelines. We gave him statins. We gave him all these drugs to lower cholesterol. So they will actually blame you. And they will say, he died of a stroke. I died of a stroke when I was on a statin, on a fibrate, on hypertensive drugs. Why? How? That's the same way you die from diabetes and the complication of diabetes, even though you've been treating diabetes. You get the point? So you ask yourself, why did your relative die from kidney failure, which is a complication of diabetes, but he was on drugs for diabetes? How did they end up having a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke, when they're on drugs for hypertension? How did they end up having a kidney transplant? How did they end up having a surgery of the eye when they were treating diabetes with drugs? So what happened? What changed that these guys still suffered the complication of diabetes? I expect if you're giving me drugs to actually help me manage my diabetes, I will not get to the symptoms or to the complications. So why am I taking drugs and still ending up on the complications? You just let me be. Just let me. No, do not take these drugs. You just go ahead, because at the end of it all, even if you take these drugs, you still end up getting the complications. So why don't you just let me get the complications anyway? Anyway, that is number 2. Number 3, we have the bile acid sequestrants. Here, don't even cram the groups. You just understand the drugs. And I'm mentioning these drugs in the group because there are people who are using these drugs. They don't know where these drugs are. They're just been told that these drugs will lower your cholesterol, and you don't know these are actually drugs that are going to affect you. Number 3 on the list is actually what we call the bile acid sequestrants. These examples, cholesterol. Now, anytime you buy a drug, there's that big name there that is written on R. That's the company name, so don't worry about that. Read the smaller name here. Like you see a drug like Maramoja. Don't bother about Maramoja. Read the small word here. That is paracetamol. That's the active ingredient. That's what you should be considering. So the names that I'm mentioning here, like this cholesterol and cholestyramine, these are actually the names, the generic names for those drugs that lower cholesterol. So when you focus on reading the brand names, the company names, you will not get anything. You need to read the generic names. And you realize most doctors are prescribing using the company names, the brand names. That tells you that that doctor is under a pay slip from a pharmaceutical company. So he writes a brand name and then says, do not substitute. He's actually getting paid. He's on a payroll from that company. Yes, they get commissions from this. So doctors are supposed to prescribe in generic names. You're not supposed to write Brufen. You're supposed to write ibuprofen. You're not supposed to write Lipita. You're supposed to write atorvastatin. So that anybody who is issuing atorvastatin issues atorvastatin from any company, not just one company. So when your prescription is full of brand names, And brand names, I've just told you. On that drug, when you read the drug, you'll see there's that bigger name that is a company name that has an R, the trademark, and then we have the smaller name here that is written on maybe paracetamol BP or paracetamol USP. That is the generic name. Do not go for the brand name. And when you turn that box of the drug on the ingredient side, you will see it written on each tablet of this contains 500 milligrams paracetamol. Those are what you're supposed to read, not the bigger name, not the name on the box, the bigger one. Read at the ingredient side. You will see the ingredients in that drug. Some of you don't read those. You just see the bigger name and you're good to go. Your doctor just writes the brand name and then you go and buy it from a pharmacy. You're told, here tuna, here tuna. So you're busy looking for a specific brand, yet the mode of action is the same. Anyway, let's continue. So for the for the cholestyramine and the cholestyramine, what do? They trap bile in the small intestines. Listen to this. Bile is coming from the gallbladder, from the liver, and then it comes down through the bile duct and into the pancreatic duct, and then joins the small intestines at the sphincter of Oddi. Do not cram that. Just know it comes out through a hole that is called the sphincter of Oddi into the duodenum. And when it gets into the duodenum, what it does is it breaks down the fat globules, the larger fat globules, into small globules so that you can absorb them. And then so that you can mix them with fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and then you can absorb them. That is the reason why you have bile. And bile comes from cholesterol. So if you don't eat cholesterol, you'll not be able to digest fat. You'll have problems. So what these drugs, they do, they actually make sure that bile does not go anywhere. It's just sequestered in the small intestines. When that happens, the liver starts to think that I'm not doing enough work. So it keeps on producing bile. And bile is coming from cholesterol. So as it keeps on producing bile, cholesterol levels go down because it's now depleting the raw materials of cholesterol. Okay, that's how it lowers cholesterol. So we make sure that bile is stuck in the small intestines so that the liver makes more bile from cholesterol, and therefore we deplete the raw material, which is cholesterol. And now we bring down cholesterol levels. But look at it this way. If you stick this bile in the small intestines, you're going to stick fat in the small intestines, and you're going to get a very serious diarrhea. That's why one of the side effects is actually diarrhea. And that diarrhea, or that even stool that you're getting out, is very fatty. It has a layer of fat. Now, that layer of fat, when you try to flush that stool into your toilet, it does not go anywhere. It simply rotates and comes back. Unajaribu kuflush, inaenda tu and then comes back and floats on the on the water on the loo. That's a side effect of these drugs. Yeah, diarrhea and steatorrhea. We call it steatorrhea. Basically, a fatty stool. Okay, a very bad feeling. So the end result is to lower cholesterol. The side effects are the same because we are lowering cholesterol in the system, the same. And this one also brings you the gallstones. Okay, so most of these drugs actually affect cholesterol levels and they bring you the gallstones. Good. So what are the side effects of the bile acid sequestrants? Remember, we are sticking the bile and the fat into the small intestine, so therefore, absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K is diminished. You will need a supplement for that. Bloating, diarrhea, and a fatty stool. Let's move on swiftly. There's another one that is called vitamin B3. Vitamin B3 is called niacin. Niacin, on lower levels, is a vitamin B3. On higher levels, it is now a cholesterol-lowering drug, which is a problem. Do not confuse niacin with nicotine. They are not the same. This one is niacin, vitamin B3. Okay? And this one has a very weird side effect. Listen to this. And I want to show you how the system operates. They give you a drug, and then they give you a drug for side effects of that drug. So this drug causes you a very serious flushing on the face. Why? Because it causes excessive production of prostaglandins. So you get this serious flushing on the head, on the face. You get this redness of the face, and it's very itchy. And guess what the doctors write as a drug that is used to do away with this? It is a prostaglandin inhibitor, aspirin. So you take vitamin B3 to help you lower cholesterol, you get the flushing, and they even warn you, they tell you this one will bring you a lot of flushing. You will have very bad face and all that. So what do you do to reverse that? You simply continue taking this one. Don't worry. No. You cannot stop these drugs. Can you? Don't stop. If you stop, you will die. So continue taking this drug, but here is another drug to just mask the symptoms of flushing. So they give you now aspirin or an NSAID. Now, what did we say about NSAIDs? We said NSAIDs mess up your kidneys, right? Because they lower the patency or the blood flow. They reduce the blood flow towards the kidneys. So they actually affect your kidneys. And we said cholesterol lowering drugs actually affect the kidneys. Double tragedy to the kidneys. Now, kidneys regulate blood pressure. Therefore, hypertension is coming as a result of you using drugs to lower cholesterol. Are we together? Hey. Sometimes, just take time. Walk into a library anywhere, take a medical book and start reading. It might be very confusing, but just take time and read. You'll get to understand these things easily. Somebody is saying, I'm lost. Now, let me take you back. So you took a drug that was intended to lower cholesterol, right? And then it caused you production of excessive hormones that are called prostaglandins that are actually coming from the same cholesterol. And then now you have this hot flushing in your face, just the same way women experience menopause. And this hot flushing is because of excessive production of hormones because of this drug called vitamin B3, the niacin. Now, for us to actually do away with these hot flashes in your face, we don't stop the drug. No, you have to continue with the drug. You know, why would you stop the drugs? You will die. So continue with this drug. And now let's give you another drug that will clear the side effects. So now we are giving you a problem and then we are giving you a solution. So once we give you this drug that will clear the flushing, well done, flushing is gone. But this drug is an NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. One of the side effects of the NSAIDs, specifically aspirin, is a gut problem. So it causes gastritis. And of course, what do we give you? Either omeprazole or we give you an antacid. So another drug for the side effects of another drug that was treating side effects for another drug. Now, we have a problem with the kidneys because these drugs that are called NSAIDs actually reduce blood flow towards the kidneys. So they affect the kidneys. And the kidneys are the organs that actually control or regulate blood pressure. So now you take a drug to lower cholesterol and the intention is to prevent you from getting hypertension. But you end up affecting the kidneys through other drugs that are surrounding this drug. And then the kidneys are unable to control blood pressure, therefore hypertension as a side effect. So you are treating hypertension and ending up with hypertension. Do you now get it? I was in pharmaceutical marketing for more than 10 years. They are called medical representatives. I told you about them, med reps. Daktari, nisukumie hii dawa. Push this drug for me. I was in pharmaceutical marketing for more than 10 years. And when you talk about making diseases to sell drugs, that is so true. When you talk about paying doctors to prescribe drugs, I know because we did it. These are not my words. This is somebody who was in a medical representative field. She was doing the marketing. And the word is marketing. So the marketing comes in handy. It's not about the drugs to change your life. No, it's about selling these drugs so that the companies make a lot of money. Then she says, you have changed my life from juicing, and I'm better. Taking vegan diets, the beans and the vegetables used to give me gas and flatulence, but now with animal proteins and fats, I'm so good. Amazing. I have been fasting. Fasting now is better because I'm full for long. My skin is clearer. There is a drug that is called ezetimibe. Ezetimibe. This one is an interesting one because this one blocks your absorption of cholesterol from the gut. Imagine that. So this one blocks your absorption of cholesterol from the gut. So you've eaten a fatty meal and then you take this drug, you are not going to absorb any cholesterol. So you're going to end up in cholesterol deficiency. But this one is interesting because you will not absorb cholesterol and the liver will know, he's not bringing in cholesterol. What do I do? What do I do, class? Get more production of cholesterol. So this one is almost a waste of your time. Because you prevent absorption of cholesterol, the liver realizes, oh, there's a deficiency, I have to compensate. So it makes more cholesterol. And now we'll now have to combine ezetimibe plus atorvastatin. Problems. Okay? So always open your mind and your head to just listen to these things. Those are the five, I think five, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. Yes, 5 groups of cholesterol. Now, as I finish this conversation, what you need to know is that you need fat to lose fat. So cholesterol has never been a problem. When you want to lose fat or lose weight, eat more fats because they lower your insulin levels and then you start burning what you've stored, you lose weight. Number 2, your brain needs cholesterol to survive. If you don't eat cholesterol-rich foods, you'll end up losing memory. If you take drugs for cholesterol, you lose the memory. Number 3, your nerves need cholesterol for survival. For them to transmit impulses faster, they need cholesterol. Therefore, if you don't take foods that are rich in cholesterol, or if you ever take drugs that lower cholesterol, you'll end up having numbness and peripheral neuropathy because your nerves are unable now to transmit impulses actively. Number 4, you have hormones in the body that regulate your system. And these are hormones that actually come from cholesterol. They're called steroid hormones. One of them is cortisol, a stress hormone. The other one is aldosterone, a hormone that regulates blood pressure. Others are the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So if you ever lower your cholesterol levels, of course, you'll end up having problems with hormonal imbalance, and men will have erectile dysfunction. Therefore, we'll give you more drugs to actually treat the side effects of just one drug. Another thing that you should know is prostaglandins are actually other hormones that come from cholesterol, and their role is one, to give you pain so that they can show you there's a problem in the system. They come from cholesterol. Number 2, prostaglandins help you to contract the uterus so that you expel the worn out uterus during menstrual cycle. So they are very important. They even help you during childbirth. And also, they increase blood flow towards the kidneys. So prostaglandins are very important. They also improve cellular communication, cell-to-cell communication. And that is why you need cholesterol, because you'll produce these hormones that will actually help you in these functions. And then vitamin D is another hormone that is called cholecalciferol and actually comes from cholesterol. So if you avoid cholesterol-rich foods, if you lower cholesterol, you'll end up having low immunity because vitamin D plays a very important role in your immunity. You'll also end up having osteomalacia or osteoporosis because vitamin D actually plays a very important role in your bone development. Okay? So now if you avoid this low immunity, so therefore another drug for infections, basically antibiotics. And then you end up having calcium supplements and vitamin D supplements just because you're not eating fatty meats, just because you're taking drugs that actually lower cholesterol. Most importantly, your skin and your muscles have cells that actually are made up of cholesterol. So if you don't take cholesterol, or if you foods that are rich in cholesterol, or if you take drugs that lower cholesterol, you will end up having muscle wasting and very, very bad structure or physique. Okay? And then above all, your cells are covered by a lipid bilayer, that is fats. You need fats to make sure that the cells are actually having a good integrity. They covered well and they have a good integrity, okay? And then, of course, the major one, cholesterol comes in to cover wounds that are caused by sugar and the seed oil. So cholesterol actually comes in to fix inflammation that is caused by the inflammatory foods. If you've not watched live, I talked about inflammatory foods. Simply go on my YouTube channel, Health and Wellness Pod. Press the live button. It will give you all the lives that we've done. Look for one that is talking about inflammatory foods and look at the seed oils, the wheat, and the sugars. You will understand it even better. And then finally, cholesterol is used to make bile. And bile is actually something that actually helps you to digest fat and absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So if you don't have cholesterol, or if you're using drugs that lower cholesterol, you end up in cholesterol deficiency. You will not produce enough bile. You will have gallstones. You will have mineral deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies, specifically vitamin A, D, E, and K deficiencies. Therefore, you'll need a supplement. So now you see why these foods are very important for you. Now you see why those drugs that lower cholesterol are not as necessary as you think they are. If you change your kitchen, you'll not need to take a drug that is supposed to lower cholesterol.